Okay, so
Africa, New Zealand, Pakistan. It's great because we see people from all over the world. It's like day, afternoon, and night.
all over the world.
Excellent.
Amazing. So welcome everybody. Yeah, wow. Okay, we've got people joining us from all over. My name is Danielle Stein Fairhurst. I am coming from Sydney, Australia, although tomorrow I will be jumping on a plane and coming to Las Vegas, and I cannot wait. It's going to be fantastic. I'm so excited about that. So we have Carolina Lago is our fabulous speaker today. She is our, we had one, when did we run? We ran one, was it earlier this year?
I think it was in June, if
Oh,
I'm not wrong.
so yes,
Yeah,
we had a
time
session.
passes by so fast.
So much, so many wonderful things to talk about. Carolina is normally based in Switzerland, but today she is in Brazil. So we have got time
Yes.
zones all over the place. So fantastic. Welcome, everyone. So today, Carolina is going to be talking about the very contentious issue of circularity in financial models. I know that is, we actually have a debate coming up very soon. I'll see if I can find the link and I'll pop that into the chat for everyone if you want to join. You are debating that topic, is that right, Carolina? Or is that something that?
Um, yeah, debating that topic. Yeah, I'm gonna do the great debate with Paul. That's what you mean?
Yes, yes, with Paul Barnhurst.
Yes, I know this is going to come up.
I know.
And that's a very hot one because a lot of people disagree.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's something that whether you should put circular references in financial models, I avoid them like anything. It is
Me
something,
too.
yes, but it is an issue when it comes to interest calculations. I know, Carolina, you uh, did the FMI Financial Modeling Institute exam where you need to deal with that issue. And since we last spoke, you have actually become a certified trainer with the FMI as well. So you can
Yes.
tell how to pass the exam, as do I. So I'm also part of that program. So yeah, I'll hand over to you, Carolina, and yeah, let's take it away.
Okay, so let me first share my screen because then if you guys want to take a look at what I have here, I have a file that I'm going to share with you guys. If you want to scan that and download, or Danielle can also put on the chat. Um,
Yes,
well,
I
first of all,
chat.
before we jump into this very hot issue in financial modeling, let me just introduce myself. If you don't already know me, like Danielle already said a bunch, but I am Carolina. I've been working with FP&A, finance, financial models for the last 20 years in different areas of companies, in different industries, in different continents. So I've been experiencing quite a lot, different things. So I've been seeing all that I can see in financial modeling. I've been working with them, fixing them, creating them, throwing them away, probably creating another one. So I've seen everything in financial modeling. And the circularity is one thing that comes as a very polemic topic because, well, for me, I avoid at all costs. And that's what Danielle said as well. And I see a lot of people also avoiding, but sometimes it's really necessary. Sometimes you have a client that will say, no, I want to calculate this way. That's how we get closer to actuals, or we get closer to how I think it should be. Or you have a CFO that really sets foot that he wants the calculation to be that way, especially on the debt, which is what I'm going to present today. But circular reference can happen everywhere in your spreadsheet. So I am very in favor of you understanding it. It's not that you are going to use it. It's not that you're going to adopt it every time. I still avoid, I still don't think it's a good idea. but it's good for understanding. It's good for you as a financial modeler, as a good financial modeler, to understand it and to know how to deal if you have to deal with it ever. And the way I'm going to show today is going to be a very simple way to deal with it if you do have to use circular reference. But I want to point that there are so many ways to deal with it. You can use VBA, which for me brings a bigger problem. So I'd rather use circular reference and instead of doing VBA. For me, it brings a bigger problem because it's a black box. Sometimes the client or the users don't know how to deal with it, don't know how to fix it. So it becomes a model that will soon be obsolete and won't be used anymore. I'd rather put circular reference and giving the user the chance to choose if they want to use it with or without, and put as much as documentation as I can throughout the model so they know how to do it, they know how to fix it if they have to fix it. Okay, so I think we have enough about me, about the topic, so let's jump in. I prepared this spreadsheet here so you can go on and take a look at it and play with it, actually. The first thing I'm going to do is to show you a little demonstration so you understand what is circular reference. Most of you might already have that signal when you jump into it, when you do some formula that will create a circular reference, that Excel will yell at you and show you that you have a circular reference. And usually what we do, Control-Z and forget about it and try another way. But what we're going to do is understand how, if you actually intentionally are going to use circular reference, how to use it and how it works. So first I have here two formulas. I just put it here 10 on this cell here, and I put this here FH, which is this cell, plus 5. I repeated this right here, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to equal this to this minus 5. So you have here the same results, right? And that's because my circular reference is on. Now, let me just do a Control-Z. And I'm going to show you where, and you can see here, where you can enable or disable circular reference, and then you see what happens. Let's go to File, Options, and then you go to Formulas. This is the little box right here where you enable iterative calculation. That's where you allow Excel to calculate based on another cell. So let's just turn it off and see what happens if I do the same thing. And then we go back and turn it on again. What I do now, I will equal this first of all, this formula depends on this one. So now I'm going to make this one depends also on this one. So let's do this. Equals to this minus 5. And it's going to yell at me saying, I have a circular reference. If I hit OK, I'm going to see it here, the circular reference, and then it's not going to calculate. Okay? So as you saw before, let me just turn it on again. And I want you to play with this as many times as you can, as many times as you can, because that's what makes you comfortable with using the circular reference if you can. So now let's do it again. And let me show you why this can be a problem. So you see here, I have 10 and I have 15, the same way. But on this formula, I made it very easy for Excel to solve. I just created two formulas that it's pretty easy. It's 10 and 15. There's no other answer for that. When I do anything else on the model, this still is stable. Now, what if I do something else with my formula? Instead of 5, I'll put 10. So you see here, it gave me a completely different number. Now I have 490 here, and I have 500. And now, if I put anything on the model elsewhere, not on the same place, it's going to keep calculating. So that's why, that's one of the many reasons that you see, I even deleted and it keeps calculating because the formulas, there's no way Excel can stabilize this model. It's not
Whenever
that
these
this happens.
crazy things happen, often,
Yes,
Excel will just suddenly start behaving really strangely. And the first thing to check is, hang on, has somebody enabled iterative calculations, or is that
exactly.
a reference? Mm.
Yeah. So that's why we avoid. That's why we avoid. It's the first reason we avoid is this. It's we cannot predict what Excel is going to do, and it might seem the problem is that's the biggest problem for me. It doesn't show any error. It might seem like everything is right, but it's not. It's recalculating and redoing everything. However, on this one, I know that I did a mistake because it's impossible. There's no number that I can do that is -5 here and that is plus 10 here. It's going to keep calculating. There is no way mathematically that I can make this come to a stable model. So that's why it's going to keep calculating. However, when we use it properly, when we do the right formulas, like we are going to show you on the debt schedule, it's the right way to calculate. It's fine. It's a proper formula. But when you leave the iterative calculations on, you're risking other things happening in your model. So if you do have to use, and if you do know what you're doing, you do know what kind of formulas you're using, the best way for me is to create a switch. It's a simple way that you can do to turn it on and turn it off that formula. So you are going to either use the calculation or not. The model is going to work the same way.
Hang on,
And that's what I'm
are
going
you
for.
going to explain why people would use a circular reference? Are you going to come to that, or?
Yeah, I'm going to give you one example. There are
Yeah.
many, but one of the examples is the calculation of the debt. I'm going to show the calculation, and then it's a good reason, actually. It makes sense. It does make the model more precise. But
So
I truly
far,
believe
yeah, the comments we're getting in the chat are like,
crazy.
yeah. And I'm just wondering if we should, show the other side of the argument.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, that is a good side of the argument. It does make sense that we calculate, for example, for the debt, we need to calculate based on the average and not the beginning or the ending balance of the debt. It does make more precise, and Excel has this amazing ability to try different, how can I say, try different results to arrive to the best calculation. So yeah, that is a good reason for you to use sometimes. Um, it's debatable if the how can I say, if the profit is enough, like if you can profit from it, uh, because there's a lot of risks on it. So yeah, that's the other side probably. And I'm going to show you detail how to use on the debt schedule and why it might be a good idea sometimes to use it. So another way you can do it's also referring itself. So if you do this here, age 18, I can do age 18. And I want you to test when you have this worksheet with you. You see here, I change it here, and then again, I will change it. It's going to keep changing every time I put a number somewhere else on my Excel. It's going to keep calculating, even if it's not related to those cells. So that's why it's so risky. So when I refer to the same cell, that's even more risky, of course, because it keeps calculating the same cell and it's going to go into a loop that it's endless. So I want you to test this. Try many times and see if you can find a formula that stabilizes itself, another one that doesn't. See it mathematically how it works and how Excel is doing, because you need to be comfortable with it. I'm going to shut off now the calculations. And it's good that you know, again, how to do it. You just have to turn it off. And here, guys, you can see maximum iterations. It means that Excel is going to try 100 times until it finds a solution. If it doesn't, it's going to tell you. If you increase this, it's going to keep trying, but then you risk waiting like hours for it to find the solution.
Yeah.
And this is the change, this is the maximum change that it's going to do on each one of the iterations.
Yeah, Vincent saying
Have you been through that, Danielle, to have like a calculation that takes a long time?
Yeah. Vincent says, is this a good prank that you can play on your co-workers? Is to add something that's going to mess up the calculations.
Yeah, add a few zeros there. And you see here, I already have Excel yelling at me. So I'm just going to delete this and delete this to take off. So you can see also here, let me just show you here. You can see also here, when you have circular references, it's going to show you right here on the bottom of my screen. I don't know if you can see that. It's going to show you what cell you have the circular reference so you can actually deal with it.
Yeah, it's not actually showing at the bottom, but oh yeah, now we can see. Yeah, just in the status bar, it can help you find it.
Yeah, the status bar will show you. And now that I delete it, it shows ready, and then there's nothing going on there. Okay, so I know you guys will be excited, will be more excited to see a model. And yes, before anybody asks, you have this, you probably already downloaded. If you didn't, Danielle is going to share on the email with the reporting.
Yes.
This is a financial model. It's not complete because I just left the debt schedule here because that's what we're going to use. Everything else is pasted value. But, well, if you have been following all those webinars and the last one that I did with Danielle, you know how to link everything, probably. I hope so. But let's take a look at what happens in the 3 statements that we will need to understand for the debt schedule. First of all, with the debt schedule, we are going to calculate the interest expense, the net interest expense, which is the interest revenue minus the interest expense. And that comes to the income statement. So it's right here and it's linked on our schedule. You see that everything that is linked, I just highlighted. I don't know if you can see it here. It's not very well highlighted. It's gray, but it's blue, like light blue. But you can see that it's linked somewhere. You also see here, if I change the net income, it's going to change my cash flow. Then you see here that I have my 3 pieces of debt coming to my financing activities on my cash flow coming from my debt schedule. And on the other side, on the balance sheet, I have also the ending cash coming here. And I have those pieces of debt coming to my liabilities. I have the revolving credit, which is the one that we're going to talk most today. And I have those other 2 pieces of debt that I'm also linking to my schedule. And of course, I did a fake formula here. I usually don't do that. I linked already on the retained earnings. I linked already on the income statement. Usually, I calculated this separate on the equity schedule, but you see this formula here, it's not linking on the equity schedule because I don't have the equity schedule right now. I just have the debt schedule. Don't mind that. So let's take a look at the debt schedule. So understand first how it works and then why circular reference is going to come in place, and then we build a switch so we can see how we can control this a little better. So you see here, all my schedules, I always do this way. I always try to do this way. I bring all the assumptions, even if I had a full model here with the assumptions on another tab. And if you're doing the AFM, you have to use the assumptions on another tab. That's one of the requirements, just to remind you. But here, I just have the debt schedule, so all the assumptions are right here for me. I have the rates for the cash. Every time I have cash laying on my cash flow, every time I have cash in the bank that I didn't use, I'm going to make some money out of it. So I have a cash interest rate. I'm going to make income out of this cash. And I have also the revolving credit facility. The revolving credit facility, how it works. Every time that I go lower than 0 in cash, I will borrow money automatically from the bank. So I have this huge interest rate. You can see compared to the other ones, it's 10, it's double the most expensive one that I have, the most expensive piece of debt that I have. The revolving credit facility makes it easier for me because it's automatically coming from the bank, but it's very expensive. So I need to plan this ahead and make sure I don't use it much, but it's like a safe net that I can use in case I go below zero for cash. So when you see here, we are going to model this on the financial model on a way that our model becomes dynamic. I never go below zero on cash, but at the same time, I can see where the revolving credit is working, so I can model, make sure I put assumptions, or if I try to fund my projects another way that I don't go into this very expensive piece of debt. And then I have here the fixed term amount, the fixed term amortization and the variable term amortization, which are the two other pieces of debt I'm going to model here. I'm not gonna go deeper on this. I'm not gonna show you every step of the way because our point here is to show how the circular reference works and why we need circular reference here. So let me go back, let me go down here on the revolving credit. Let me show you how it works so you understand why we need the circular reference. The revolving credit, how I calculate? I will calculate first everything that I have free cash flow, everything that is left over on my cash that I didn't use for my immediate obligations. So here I'll bring this from my cash flow. I'll bring everything that I know I need to pay. So it's basically all my cash flow except for the revolving credit itself. You see everything going from there. You can check those formulas later. Then as soon as I see how much free cash flow I have, if it's positive, it will do nothing. And this formula will do that. You can check, again, you can check the formula later and understand it. Or you can join my course or Danielle's course to understand how to build the revolving credit facility. So everything, if I have positive cash, I will not only make money out of it, but I don't need to borrow to cover my cash needs. I already have cash there. However, in this case, I didn't have a positive cash flow, so I needed to borrow back. So this formula will actually add to my balance, to my revolving debt balance, and add exactly what I need to cover my cash. And then on the next period, it's going to calculate if I have extra cash again, it's going to repay exactly what I can pay now. I still owe some money. I still owe 5 million, but I can already pay 7 back to this revolving facility. And you can see here on the cash flow, the same movement. Remember that I said I had free cash flow of 19, and then I had no cash on this period, and I had to borrow. And then again, I paid back everything. So I used it all to pay it back. So I end up the next period also with 0 cash, but not negative cash. Because there's no such a thing as negative cash, right? You owe somebody. You either owe your bank account or you make any kind of borrowing to cover, but there's no negative cash. Unless your bank gives you a credit line with 0 interest, which I think it's very hard. And if you do have, use it. But I don't think it happens very often. So you owe somebody money and then we need to repay with interest. So going back to my debt schedule, what I am going to do, this is a corkscrew schedule if you're not familiar with. I begin with my beginning balance, which was 0. I didn't have any money. I didn't owe any money on this credit line. On the second period, I also didn't borrow any money. And then on the third period, I borrowed 12 million. And now that's my balance. It begins with my beginning balance, is my ending balance of the last period. And then it adds everything that I borrowed. And now I owe 12 million. I start the next period with 12 million, then I repay. You see it's negative here. I repay part of it, which is the cash that I had left over. And then I still owe 5 million, and so on, so forth. That's called a corkscrew schedule. Based on that, I have my ending balance, which is going to go to my balance sheet. And that's what I use to calculate my interest expense. Now, the thing is, I don't know for sure in what point of the year I borrow this 12 million. It might have been along the year, might have been adding up along the year. So one best practice, if you see how to calculate debt and how to calculate interest, is to use the average between the beginning balance and the ending balance. So you see here, if I try to add the average, if I try to add this formula, average between the beginning balance and the ending balance, times, I forgot what, let me go back to my revolving credit here. It's going to yell at me that I'm doing a circular reference. And why is that? Very simple. I'm going to do the Ctrl-Z as usual. Very simple. I am using something that depends on cash. And then what I am doing is actually changing cash as well. So you see here, let me go back to my circular reference. You see here, it's going to show all the little points that it's being included. You see, it's bringing the cash flow, the operating cash flow, it's changing because my interest changes my net profit changes my cash, and then my cash comes here, and you see here every little point of the circular reference where you are actually using what you are using that is bringing a circular reference. It's starting from here, and then it goes to my net income. My net income comes to my
not
cash.
very happy.
A what?
So your model is not very happy, is what you're saying.
No, not at all. It can become a mess. If you know what you're doing, if this is a okay circular reference that you actually know what you're doing and it's going to stabilize itself, if you're sure it's going to stabilize itself, then for all means, use it. But then what I like to do is to create a switch that I can give the user that power. If they don't want to see circular reference, they will just turn it off. And if they don't have the circular reference on, so the Excel doesn't yell at them, they'll keep it off. You have enough documentation along your model showing that if they turn that switch on, it's going to require that they allow iterative calculations. So that's very...
In the FMI, when you're doing the Advanced Financial Modeler certification, you're not required to do a switch, are you? You have a choice of how you want to have.
Yes. You're not required. You can use the beginning balance, which is what I'm going to use right now. If you see here, I am just using my beginning balance. So I'm assuming that I have that need for cash from the beginning of the year. My interest is going to be a little higher, but depending on the model, that's not that material, so it's not that important. What you need to evaluate is if you want to use this, if this change is material enough, or if you have another way to do it, maybe doing monthly, where you put exactly where you're borrowing the money. Maybe you lower that risk, lower that need of using the circular reference to calculate. It's something that as a modeler, you need to evaluate. For the AFM, you are not required. You can use the beginning balance to calculate the debt. It's okay. They're not going to take points out of you for that.
It's possible.
To be honest,
okay, if that's an acceptable way of building the model for the exam, but it's not as accurate as the way you're showing us here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm going to show here also, that you have to warn your user if you have the need to put it on, if your difference is material enough, you have to warn your user that with circular reference, it's going to be more accurate. However, there are risks. So the risk is that the model might become unstable. So it's good for them to know that. And I like to put as much documentation in the model as I can. So if somebody after me comes along and wants to change, it's not that hard to change as long as you have the circle reference well documented and where you're using it, where you're using that formula for the switch. And I'll show you how to use, and then you can use the same formula in the whole model for any other thing that you want to use the circular reference for. It doesn't have to only be the debt schedule. Sometimes you have the need for something else. Okay, so one way to avoid is to use the beginning balance in the case of debt, okay? There are many, many other ways. I'm not going to go through them, especially because I am not familiar with some of them. I don't know how to do it. I know that it's possible to bring this to another table. It's possible to use VBA. I never tried. It's not something that I use often. I have managed in my 20-year career to avoid circular reference at all costs. But at some point, I understood how to do this switch, and I thought it was really interesting. And you can do that for other things as well. Like if you want to use the same method, not only for circular reference, but if you want to use the same method to switch between two formulas, for example, it makes your model a little bit more dynamic. Of course, there are many other modern ways to do that too. Nowadays, Excel is it's evolving so much. So you can use lambdas and make those formulas up to you. But I'm always favoring to the simple Excel. And this is a very simple way to do it. So, okay, so let's try to fix this. There's two places here where I should be using the average. It would be more precise, but I am using the beginning balance. Let's create a switch and let's give the user the possibility to change that for the average instead of the beginning balance. One of them is the excess cash, which also uses the beginning. Right now, I'm using the beginning cash, but it can be this excess cash can come anytime in the year. So it would be better to use the average, which will incur a circle reference. And the other one is the revolving credit facility in this case. So let's do the switch. What I'm going to do now, and the model that you have, if you have already downloaded, you already have a switch there. But bear with me and understand how to build it, because I know you're going to like this and you're going to be using this for many things if you want. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create sort of like a legend where I put on and off, and I tell my user, what does it mean when it's on? What does it mean when it's off? Just to make sure it's well documented. So I can put like this, circularity. And don't mind if I did different from the model that I put it for downloading. It's just, I don't remember exactly what phrase I did, but it means the same thing. So I can put, if circularity is on, I have increased accuracy in calculating that. Let's say that. Maybe using for something else, just making sure that it's documented. What did I do here?
I like that you've done that, because it is sometimes a little bit confusing, on, off, or on.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Just to be really explicit about it. That's good. Okay, yes, here it goes. We have the
Less
that we were expecting for project finance. Gabriel says for project finance modeling, VBA is the way to go with dealing with circular reference.
Yes, exactly. That's why a lot of people from project finance have been roasting me for even talking about having a switch here. But I just want to say that this is an easy and simple way, and sometimes you just want to be simple. Let me just make it more. Okay, so I have here sort of like a legend that will show me Let me give some more space to put it up here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this on and off as an option for my switch. So I'm going to name it let's say options or options. I think it's easy enough if I have not. Okay, options. And then I'm going to choose one cell that I'm going to call, let me just highlight it so we don't lose track of it. And I'm going to call this, that's what I need for my switch. I'm going to name it to Circularity. Okay, so now I'm going to create my switch. I can reach here. Okay. I'll go on developer, insert, combo box form control. And I'm going to do on the side and then I'll cover that yellow cell in a minute, just to make it pretty. So I create my switch and now I'm going to click with the right button of the mouse, format control. Why it's not showing? Let me know if you can see. Can you see also my format control?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Okay. Sometimes I'm recording it, it doesn't show the pop windows.
Depends how you share. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't.
So I'll go here and I'll put my range, which is my options. I just call it options. I can call whatever I want, options. And then the cell link, I'm going to add circularity. Circularity. And I'll hit OK. Once I do that, now my combo box is going to show me the two options, on and off. And once I hit on, the cell here is going to be 1. And once I hit off, the cell here is going to be 2. This is so simple, and you can use it for so many things. And I'm going to show you how. So I'm going to keep this off. And let me just cover this 2 here so it'll be pretty. And I'm going to keep it off, and I'm going to make the formula now depending on that cell there. So let's start with the cash interest income. Right now, I have just my beginning balance times my rate, which means that I had this cash laying over my cash flow, and this extra cash. I was making money since the beginning of the year. For the full year, I calculated 0.5 on top of my beginning cash. However, it's more precise if I use the average because I don't know when this cash was left over on my cash flow. So it's more precise. I get closer to reality if I use the average. So I'm going to create a formula here, very simple formula, an if statement, where I use circularity, and it's already here, so I can just hit tab, equals to 1, then average, and the formula of the beginning and the ending balance times my rate. And then, right, the comma means then. If circularity is on, I use the average times the rate. If not, then I use just the beginning balance times the rate. So let me close the brackets here. And there we go. Because it's off, Excel is not yelling at me saying there's a circular reference, okay? Once I do this and I turn it on, it's going to turn to the other formula, which brings a circular reference. And if I hit OK, you will see the same blue arrows showing where the reference is coming from and why I have a circular reference here. So now all I have to do is go to my files, options, formulas, and I can enable iterative calculation. So it will be okay to have a
Do you
circular
leave this
reference.
on all the time, the circular reference enabled? And then you switch
No,
the pricing on.
no, usually not. I like to know when I made a circular reference because I try to avoid it. So I leave it off all the time. Unless I'm dealing with a model that I really need to use it, then I leave it on. It's one way that you can use. You can know that you have been using circular reference, and you see this calculate here. So it actually gives you the control, but at the same time, the model is unstable.
Yeah, so it quarantines the whole circular reference. So it really just it allows you to control whether or not you've
Exactly. So what I do is when I create this switch to make sure that I didn't add circular reference anywhere else,
yes.
I just turn it off and I test the model. So I test the model. It's one of the things that I do to audit is to make sure I don't have circular reference. So I will test it. I will put a circular reference somewhere and I'll see if it will yell at me. And then I turn my circular reference on and see if it's working as expected with my circular reference off. So that's how I do it, to test my switch and to test if the model has somewhere else, because this doesn't avoid that you accidentally add circular reference somewhere else. If you have your circular reference on and by accident you do a formula that you don't intend to use circular reference on and you don't prepare this, because you need to use the circularity on every formula everywhere in your model that you want to use it. So that's how you keep it safe. But to make sure that you are not using unintentionally, then you have to test it and go over and turn it off, turn it on, and make sure that you are using only on the place that you know about it. So it's very important to have that step and make sure that the model is correct by all sides.
Yeah, we
with
get
the
a
circle
few questions
on and without.
about the technical aspect of actually building the switch, about whether why did you use a combo box? Could you not have just used a data validation, and whether you could have used a checkbox?
It could be. I like the looks of the combo box.
It's
It
just a
could, but it could
personal
be
choice.
only a simple validation. It could be only a number hidden somewhere. What I like about this is if I copy this and put it somewhere else. Let me put another one here. Okay, it didn't copy well. If I copy it and I put it somewhere else, it's going to work together.
Yeah.
So it's like those suites that we have in the room, like that you turn on the lights when you enter the room and then you go to bed and then you turn off the light. I like to do. I like to have one in my cover. I like to have one in the scenario page. I like to have one everywhere that I need to know that I need to be switching on and off. And this goes for scenarios. I like to use this for scenarios. I like to use the switch a lot. I think it's a simple solution. And if you use the name manager on it, if you name the ranges, you can copy over. You don't have to be worrying about repeating the formula and redoing the switch. You just can copy the switch over everywhere and have a little control everywhere. So I like to put on for example, if I put on the chart, on the place that I put the visualizations, I can put that, then I can see very well. I can put a chart that shows me the interest expense compared to something else. I can turn on and off the circularity and see if it's actually important, see how much does it change. It's very easy to keep this switch everywhere and then it'll work together because it's using the naming. If I had done the formula, I would have to redo the switch every time. So it's a very simple way for you to give control to the user. So let me
Yeah, cool.
delete this so I don't
We're
get
getting
confused.
a few comments. I think they're very much liking this. There's a comment from Christoph saying another way that he can think of using is to use a cash buffer to turn off the circularity, use the inaccurate revolver modeling, and then add a preferred ending cash balance as an expense for the purpose of the revolver, and then the ultimate ending cash will be different, and you can show the user if the difference is with a certain margin of tolerance. Okay, that sounds like
That's very interesting. I would love to see that done. If you can
Mm.
send me a template, I never thought I would say that. I'm asking for templates. But
Yeah,
yeah, if you
that's saying that
can
it
send a
works.
template,
Yeah,
I would love to see that.
interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Like I said, there are many ways that you can go around this, and you can actually do calculation on a table, which is separate, and then it will bring the value back.
yep.
I've seen it done. It's not something that I usually do, but that's because I didn't have the need so far, and that's why people from project finance come roasting me. It's because us in corporate finance, we don't have that need so much. So
Mm.
it's not mature enough. Usually our models are monthly. I have like a 5-year run that I usually match with the strategy, but it's just a guidance for budget. It won't be that precise. It doesn't have to be that precise. So yeah, I didn't have the need to use it so much, and that's why for me this is enough. This is a simple enough use. Usually when I have to use this is for a project that will a model that will calculate for a project or something like that. Then it's okay to use because it doesn't have to be that precise. Somebody else will deal with the difference later. And that's how it is. It's a corporate finance will be very different from project finance, and people usually don't get that.
We're
But I
getting
totally respect. I know they have the needs. I know
yeah.
they cannot use something
Yeah,
like that. They'll need to
people
do
do get,
VBA.
it's one of those issues people get really like one way or the other.
Yeah.
There's a question from Jan saying, what do you do when you receive a model with circular references to find out where they are, especially if there are multiple circles? So I tend to use the little auditing tool. Do you have any other
Yes.
tricks, Carolina?
Yeah, you can do, let me just see if I can take zoom out of the way. Okay.
Mhm.
So I go here on formulas. I always have to look for, no, it's not formulas, it's data.
Isn't it under, yeah, no, I think it's under formulas.
It's formulas.
Yeah, just over under the
Move things around here.
formula
Okay.
auditing where the little triangle is.
Yes, right
Yeah.
here. So you go here and then you go on error checking,
Or oh,
and
it's just there, and if there were secular references, it would show there.
yeah, if there were, it would show.
Yeah,
And there's another one um, that you can trace.
yeah. If you have
Uh,
any other tips,
that
Jan.
you can trace errors, and it's gonna show.
Yeah,
Uh, I would have to be on the cell.
yeah. I
I
tend
usually
to just
I see around here, and if there's no calculate here, it's because my model is stabilized. It's not trying to calculate itself.
yeah. If you turn
But
off the iteration, it will show up. I tend to just do that. So yeah, if you just turn off the iteration,
yeah,
no. But I tend to
so
just
I
pull them
use a
one by
lot the trace
one.
precedence and the trace dependence when I am checking the model to see where the numbers are coming from. Um, Usually it's not a very common error for me. If I turn it off the circular reference and it shows there is a circular reference, well, if you inherit that model for somebody else, you're gonna have to find where it is. But I didn't have that problem very much of having receiving a model with a circular reference
Oh,
already on.
really? It happens to me sometimes, and you have
Really?
to like find it and get to the bottom of it. It's awful. Or also using inspect document, that can also give you some things. Yeah, it happens to me all the time as well. And having to
Inspect the
like
document,
track it
right?
down. So if anyone has any other tips for finding the circular reference, I'd love to hear it. Yeah, it's yeah, you've got to
Yeah,
know what
those,
those
those tools
triangles.
here are very nice to find errors in general.
Yeah.
But I think it's because it's on, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah. Jan says he has a
If
tool.
I turn it off, it's an error. If it's on, it's not considering an error. That's why it's not showing there. So now, didn't I change here? Oh, it's off. Okay. Let me turn it on. Now it has a mistake. Now I can go here. Let's say I have it all over the place. Of course, it's yelling at me and showing me the errors and everything. But now I can go here and I can error checking. And it's showing me here age 22.
And trace it back. Yeah.
No, it's just showing.
Yeah, it'll kind of just tell you where it is, and then you can go through. Yeah. So if you go to the formulas and then go to the auditing now, I think it will take you directly to it. So if you just
Formulas.
and then go into, yeah, if you go to try that one again.
Oh, now it shows right here. Yeah.
Yeah. So it gives you a
Yeah,
list.
it was off. That's why I didn't have any, because my switch was off.
Yes.
Okay, so that's where you go. Great, Danielle. I like this.
So
I don't usually do that.
Yeah. So a couple more tips in the chat, which is great. So we've got a question from Abdul. How can we simplify enabling it for non-Excel users? Yeah, I don't know a way of making that easier. You've basically got to go in and manually do it. Just go in and check it.
Yeah. Oh, you mean for Google Sheets, or you mean for somebody that it's not familiar with Excel?
With someone who's not familiar with Excel.
Let me back here.
Yeah.
Because I hate those blue errors. They drive me crazy. If I have to have it, I have to have it. Well, if you see here, what I did, when I put this here, go to files, options, and this and that, I know you're not going to show on your model everything that the person needs to do, but I like to add like a help function, and you can even put that on a comment on the cell or right by the side of the switch. If they decide to turn it on, make sure your iterative calculation is enabled. And to enable that, you can go to this, or you have a link to how to tab on your model or something like that. I really like to have the model well prepared for the final user. I think it's a nice way to have a good user experience. So if you think your model is going to be used by people that are not very familiar with Excel, they won't know that you need to go to files, then just put something like this somewhere in the model, make a link to it. Maybe you can just name it, I don't know, define name and put instructions to enable iterative calculations. And then you put like a little picture if you want, just to make sure the person will know how to do it. It's like a manual of instructions. It's always important to have that in mind, to find out the user experience, if who your model is going to go to, if it's a CFO, or if it's someone like this. Of course, if it's going to the CFO, if you're going to leave a circular reference on, make sure he knows that and make sure he approves that, because you don't want them to be opening that model and seeing errors on it. It just kills your credibility. So if you are doing this in a company, and if you're using iterative calculations in a company, make sure you have it well documented, so nobody's going to think it's an error. Everybody's going to think it's actually you meant to be like this, and have the instructions to use it and everything, especially if this is a model that is going to go up. It's very important that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Carolina. I think we've managed to deal with all of the questions. Was there anything else that you wanted to tell us about today, Carolina?
No, I just want you guys to make sure you understand the circle reference. It's important. And if you have questions, get back to me. And I hope I brought something that it's quite easy and quite simple today, and a simple fix for something that sometimes gives us a lot of headache. But if you have any questions or any suggestions, or that person that suggested the other way around, I would really like to see that. So if you can connect with me on LinkedIn and share with me some type of template or more explanations, I would love to see that.
Yes, here is a link to Carolina's LinkedIn. Let's pop that in the chat there.
And I also put the links if you download this. You can download right away, or you can wait for Danielle to send to you.
Yes.
But if you download this, I have the links for everywhere to connect with me. My LinkedIn is the one that I'm most active on, but I keep trying the other ones. They are kind of neglected a little bit, but I try to keep up. Sometimes I remember them, then I go back and try to post something. And well, if you find me there, and if you want to I don't know, give me some incentive to keep posting, just connect with me there and interact with me there, because the YouTube is one that I keep promising myself that I have so many ideas to record videos to make things more accessible for like people that is not on my courses, but is preparing by themselves to the AFM or to understand financial modeling. But it's time. The problem is it's hard to find time to post those YouTube videos. But I'll keep trying.
Yeah.
I have
And
plans.
lastly, I believe we're going to actually get to meet each other in person finally at the
That
Global
would be so
Health Summit.
fun.
Yeah, in London coming up in February. I've just popped a link to that. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you
Yeah,
finally.
and then there's the third day. Of course, I strongly advise you to attend all the days. It's very fun. A lot of things, very important things to understand and to know. Danielle has great classes there too. But the third day is free and it's open, and that's when I'm going to be speaking. So if you join me there, I would love to, and I would love to see you all there.
Yeah, I'll just put the discount code in as well before I forget. There we go. All right. Thank you so much, Carolina. And thank you everyone for attending and for all of your fantastic participation. And this is our last session for the year, and I will be in touch very soon to tell you what we've got in store for you next year, and let me know if there's any particular speakers that you would like to hear from, or if you'd like to volunteer. I'd love to hear from you. All right. Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Danielle.
All right.